Welcome, welcome, welcome to another Unapologetically Strong on WOVU 95.9 FM. It is Wednesday and it's raining, and let's go ahead and just jump into it. This is Wellness Wednesday. We have the first Wednesday of, I always want to call it Black Women's History Month, but we're not going to do that. It is Women's History Month, so we do have a full slate of people in the studio. So, we have my co-host, Stephanie Lewis, but also I want to introduce Quintella Smith. What's going on, Quinn?
Hey.
You got to come up close. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How's everybody doing out there?
Everybody is good. So Quinn and also Bree. What's going on, Bree?
Hey.
Right, hold on. You gonna come up closer?
Hey, y'all.
There you go. That's Bree Fair. That's Brianna Fair. We have our two licensed professional clinical counselors here. And so on Wellness Wednesdays, you know that we talk a little bit of wellness, and we like to jump into it. So let's do this first. Before we do anything, this show is called Unapologetically Strong. And so what we do is talk about how strong we are, and also where we find our strengths. So the first thing that I do want to, let's see, who I want to, any, mini, money. I'm going to go with Bree because she looked the most nervous. She looked the most nervous. Right. So I'm a bully out here. So we're going to pick Bree first. So Bree, one of the things we talk about is strength, and this is Wellness Wednesday. And although you are a counselor, we're not going to spend too much time on what you do. We're going to spend more time on who you are. And so what I want to know first and foremost is where do you find your strength?
I find my strength, number one, from God.
Okay.
Next, I would definitely say my support system.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely keep me lifted, and I always feel seen and heard and cared for.
Okay.
And I could think the last would be like experience,
Mm-hmm.
like looking back on things you've overcome.
Mm-hmm.
That really strengthens me.
Okay. And Quinn, what you got for me?
I really like that answer, and I would agree with that for sure. My support system, I've been blessed to have a very strong and mighty support system that I've been able to rely on and go to
Mm-hmm.
when I just need that reminder, of how I can get through things and what about me helps me get through things when you're having a hard time remembering because something might be new and making it hard for you to figure out what you need to do to get through.
Okay. So both of you, deal with the human condition. Mm-hmm. So both of you chose to be counselors because you definitely choose to be this thing rather than actually it being chosen for you. This is not one of those professions. But both of you work in two different settings. So Quinn, you work in a private practice setting, mm-hmm. and Bree, you work in one that, has definitely, I didn't picture, right? So you are both a counselor as well as a doula, and you work as a doula for, what's the name of the organization?
Birth and Beautiful Communities.
I was going to mess it up, right?
Yeah.
I was going to mess it up. So both of you decided to go into this profession, but you're actually practicing in two different ways. So I know, well, they've heard about private practice, but I want to know your side. So when you decided to actually do this thing called counseling, right? This is Wellness Wednesday. When you decided to do this thing called counseling, you decided to do it in many different ways. Why is the current way that you're doing it something that you enjoy?
That's a really good question. So I have a lot of different experiences practicing in community mental health, in school-based and in the community setting and in private practice. And why I am full-time now in private practice is that it just really gives me the flexibility to work with the population that I want to work with the way that I want to work with that population mm-hmm. in a way that is very unique and different from the community and other settings that I've worked in.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. More autonomy.
You got that right. And Bree,
Beautiful.
Let's see. And Bree, you work as both a doula and a counselor, which at times you got to wear two hats at the same time.
For sure.
Why'd you choose that?
Ultimately to help people.
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend who was a doula, and I watched it kind of transform her as a woman as a mom and as a partner. And because I love, like, I'm a trauma nerd, I saw being a doula as a way to kind of come into a person's life and help them kind of disrupt the generational trauma cycle.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was my initial goal. And I think that it worked out.
You were a doula first, is that correct? And then you took the tests and became a therapist?
Technically, they kind of happened at the same time.
Oh, okay. They were simultaneous.
I literally got licensed in October 2020, and I also got my certificate as a doula.
Okay, so you do it
as a doula in October 2020.
Okay.
So
I love that idea of I had a natural birth, and it really, I didn't have a doula at the time. I had someone that was, I guess, sort of a doula, but not really trained. And I have been so interested in the collaboration of a doula and a therapist, especially as it relates to epigenetics and just breaking that generational curse in the womb. That a lot of that trauma that the mother has experienced and how she's responding while pregnant is imprinting the DNA. And so I think you're a godsend. I mean, when Eric told me, like, the combination of your work, I was like, this is the new wave, This really is the new wave, especially for Black women. So thank you, and amazing. I'm gonna need you to train me. I think I want to be a doula. I gotta be a doula now. But yeah, so that's beautiful.
But you also chose to do your thing in a different way. So you have a couple different hats that you wear.
Oh,
what?
I wanted to cover it all.
You want right?
Yeah.
So you work in the corporate side as well as private practice, and also a hybrid type of private practice.
Yes.
I guess.
Yes. Yeah. So, you're just telling all my business. And adjunct professor.
Yeah. Okay. We can't throw that in.
Right.
Okay. I'm just kidding.
I haven't taught in the last year, but yeah.
Okay.
You didn't give them a hard time. Is it the co-host vibe?
No, I think I gave him a hard. Did I get?
Did.
Okay. I was about to say.
I was 2 minutes late, y'all. Obviously.
I was about to say. I got to be me.
Okay. Cool.
So we got. This is Women's History Month.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I wanted to talk about is bringing all these women in, because this is Wellness Wednesday, and bringing these women in and just, talking about how we strengthen women. And I am, I'm the male, here, and that's why, I got a co-host.
Okay.
And so I want you to, who are we going to pick first? Which one? Anyone? They're all Scorpios. So they're all Scorpios.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
So, but what I do want,
people, I think they could talk freely.
They can. Okay. You're not gonna jump on?
What do you mean?
Okay. So this is Women's History Month, and a lot of Bree, we've talked about how much how closely you feel on what you do and how you do it. And Quinn, your current client population, how many are women?
Most of them.
Most of them?
Yeah. Most of them are Black women or Black children or teens.
And what are you finding in working with them?
I'm finding that there's a lot that they are navigating with all of those different identities, starting with children, figuring out who they are. Some of them might be going, or in spaces where, they're a minority, and that can be hard, and trying to figure out who they are and find strength in that, and being comfortable and seeing how that impacts their self-esteem. It tends to be a really big theme in the children and teens that I work with that, you see in relationships and maybe in their academic performances as well. And with those issues, if they go unaddressed, then they may still show up in adulthood. I see with some of the women that I work with. I hear a lot of stories about how hard it is to be successful and get support in the work environment, and not really knowing how to navigate that without being seen a certain way. And
angry Black women.
Yes. And how much stress that brings on women. And how they take that home with them and have a hard time just really being able to enjoy life in a lot of different ways, because a lot of Black women, they want to be successful professionally. And if they feel like they're not succeeding in that way, then it causes a lot of stress and tension. And that's what I see a lot of with the clients that I work with.
I really appreciate you saying that. I have a question because you highlighted something about this autonomy and freedom in a private practice versus in a more formalized agency. So with this being the need of the population that is us, technically, like I'm your population, you're your population, Miss Dula is, is a population. What have you found that you do different in sessions with the autonomy that you have when treating people that look like us?
I think that what I tend to be able to do more of and spend more time on is the cultural piece, is really highlighting that and making it clear that this is something that is important. And even if you don't see it as a main component or you haven't talked about it or don't quite know how to talk about it, we're going to find ways to talk about it and learn about it.
Yeah.
How racism and all of those things, like it continues to permeate in all of these different ways and can be the answer to some of the questions about why you're experiencing the stress or, low mood, depression, anxiety. Anxiety is a really big one.
Oh, yeah.
And so really spending time on that and learning that has been something that's been a lot different. And, I've had to find and be more autonomous in finding resources, right? Because in working in those community settings, not a lot of the trainings were focused on those things.
No.
And so
not in depth, kind of just to get the CEU, just to say, just to monitor the credentials.
We got Bree over here pointing.
Okay.
You got to talk.
No, yes, chime in. It's no rules. It's no rules. She's like, da, 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 with her hand, like, just so y'all know, she's like, da, 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 da.
Bree is a part. She doing that thing to where it's a group of people.
You
and
can
she's
chime
like,
in and just kind of like, there's no rules. There's no rules.
That's funny.
There's no rules. Yeah, I love that. I do have one more comment because I really want to drill down why you felt that you didn't have the autonomy to address those barriers in a more traditional agency, right? Because I know there's not any overt rules, but I'm wondering how that symptom showed up in you, that you were paralyzed maybe to the success and not feeling like you had that voice as a clinician. What shifted? What is the actual logistical difference?
She's leading the witness now.
What is it?
No, because I don't want people to think
kidding.
Agencies are telling us we can't do this with Black women. That's not the truth, right? But it is something that even I experience. It is a barrier, but it's not obvious or overt, right? So do you have a way to describe what was that weight off your shoulder when you're like, I'm not with this agency? So we can figure out what was the weight that was on it. They didn't tell you couldn't. Why didn't you?
Well, I think that it speaks to, the supervision that I was receiving there, right? I love supervision. That's our time to really get into things and talk about a lot of different issues and, brainstorm what it is that we think that, this client can benefit from depending on what it is that their goals are.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that the barrier became, a lot of my supervisors tended to be, older white women. And so the disconnect there, was obvious. And so we weren't always able to talk in depth, right? And, of course, I'm responsible to educate myself, and I'm completely okay with that. But it's also nice to have other people who are, well-versed and educated in that topic as well to help guide me in the work that I'm doing with people. And so I think that was, a barrier for sure, and it made it a little bit more difficult. And maybe we focused on other issues that they felt more comfortable addressing with that client that weren't necessarily rooted in culture.
And
beautiful.
Before we jump off, because we got to jump on a break.
We got to hear from Bree too.
Right, because I do want, Bree had a pretty interesting, Bree had, she had a different type of supervisor, and that supervisor, didn't quite, uplift.
What?
And so when we talk about supervision in this profession, that is the thing that can be a stumble. So I'm going to give her some time. We're going to jump out on a break, and I'm going to see if she wants to, open up a little bit about how, to go back to what Quinn was talking about, that concept of supervision, which is the mainstay in our profession. We got to have it, right? Yeah. We got to have it. Somebody got to sign off on it. But it can stop you from actually growing and flowering. So we're going to bring it on the other side. I'm going to give her some time to think about it. This is Unapologetically Strong on WOVU 95.9 FM. Welcome back. WOVU 95.9 FM. This is Unapologetically Strong. And so on the other side, we were talking about this concept of supervision. So Steph, what is supervision?
Okay. We get a lot of supervision. So supervision, one, is just traditional support from someone who has a higher level of credentials than you.
Not better than you, but I got you.
Higher. I know. Said higher.
I have to put that out there because a lot of times supervisors think because they've been in the game for a while that they're better at it.
Facts.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So they're not better?
They're not better.
Higher level. That's determined by hours, which yield kind of an assumption of experience, right?
Which is based in the state of Ohio.
Yes, and it varies across states.
Gotcha.
So basically, you get your first licensure. Really before that, you get a training, a CT counselor trainee, and you have to have supervision as you are acquiring your license, a licensed professional counselor or a licensed social worker. And during that time, you're prepping for an exam that is by state. You take the exam and then you can work towards another level of licensure that makes you independent. That means you're not dependent on another person's license to treat clients. During that time, you have to have a certain amount of hours of supervision that correlate with the hours in which you are serving clients. In that time, they're talking about your caseload. They're talking about your interventions. And you're supposed to talk about your career development, professional development, and cultural competencies.
And how you're doing.
Yeah.
They're
also make sure you're good mentally. That's a given. Yeah. But I think sometimes culturally, that's just built into how we are culturally. So people don't do that, right?
Yeah.
Because your level of your mental state is important.
Yeah.
In grad school, we were told to go to therapy while we're learning to be a therapist. And I always had a supervisor whose license I was dependent on, to have me make sure I was in therapy.
Right.
So anyway, so it's all those things. I was given a shortcut. I'm glad that you added on.
You got to add
so
that.
You're spending a lot of time. You're spending a lot of time with this person and you're trusting them because you are technically this young baby. Young meaning not a lot of guided experiences in clinical work, diagnosing and treating. So you're really dependent. That's why they call it a dependent license.
Yep.
So then once you get the independent license, it goes a little further because you want to become a supervisor. So I'm a licensed professional clinical counselor with a supervisory endorsement. So once I got the LPCC, I had to be supervising a dependent license. So now this supervisor has a lot of impact, right? They're able to guide how we supervise others, almost passing the baton. And so oftentimes you're in this vulnerable position where you're modeling what you have learned, unless, how Quintella said, like figuring out her own resources, looking beyond. The bottom line is it's a dependence on someone else's style, education, and experience that puts you in a vulnerable situation.
And skills.
And also personality.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's being applied.
But a lot of times they don't think about that. And so when we were talking about Bree and we gave you some time to see, how you wanted to craft this, because you've been quiet. She's been pointing, right? She's been pointing. Anytime somebody make a point, she'd be like, boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
But,
that's what I hear.
Bree, right. Bree, First and foremost, so I found Bree, or not find Bree, we connected because of a connection between her organization and my wife. And so Bree needed a supervisor, and I was like, yeah, I'll do it. But one of the things that, first started off with Bree is that she had a fair amount of trepidation with supervision, period. It had I don't think, did it have anything to do with me?
No, not at all.
Okay. You could tell us the truth.
Yeah, you could tell us.
I'm kidding.
Okay.
No, she for real.
So, as a CT, as an intern, my first supervisor She was very good at constructive criticism, but she never really pointed out any of my strengths.
Okay.
Which led me to believe that I suck at this.
Okay. Because you said it with that face, like, she was really good at constructive criticism. Like, she did too much.
Marks on all over the paper.
Oh, wow.
And she would just go right into everything I did wrong. And I felt like there was never any, well, this part is good, or, you're getting better. There was never really any encouragement or, there was really no encouragement. So, with me being in such a vulnerable state where I'm new to this field and I'm already nervous to the max. It just really, it impacted me deeply to the point where I thought I should quit.
Quit the profession.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I wanted to throw away 2 years of work.
Oof.
And if it wasn't for God and like me knowing that this was sort of my purpose, I think I would have quit. And since then I've met like 2 other Black women who had a similar experience, but they actually didn't finish. They said, forget it. And they are not practicing. And it just hurts to hear stuff like that. And for me, it was very shocking because she was a Black woman. Yeah. And she had all this experience. And
your supervisor was a Black woman. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, so I just did not expect that. There were times that I left and got in the car and I was crying like on the way home because I'm just like, I suck at this. I shouldn't, and it made it hard moving forward when people would give me compliments because I'm like, well, maybe they're just being nice or, and she had significantly more experience than most of the people I knew in the field. Right. So I'm just like, well, she probably, her opinion matters probably most because this person has 5 years, but she has 20. Yeah. Or, and I think looking back, I think she just maybe didn't have the patience to be a supervisor anymore at that time.
The other part is burnout. So let's be real. Yeah. Once you get that -S, you have done quite a bit in the field of mental health. And simply because you have the -S does not mean that you have taken care of yourself. And that's why when I put in that last piece, that self-care, right? Because what the supervisor is supposed to do, in addition to all this professional stuff, they're supposed to build you up, and encourage you to build yourself up while you're pouring into other people. Because this stuff is hard. Let's be real. This stuff is hard and what we do is hard. And so I'm glad that you were able to come back, into the fold, right?
Me too.
Right, come back. Because, Quinn was talking about cultural competency in supervision. And, Steph had brought up, some cultural competency, but this was a Black woman. So the other thing to bring in is burnout.
Burnout and an inheritance of how she was supervised, right?
Possibly,
so when we talk about this idea of generational trauma, we isolate generational trauma to family systems, relationships, love, but generational trauma exists in every function of the Black person, right? Every function. So if that is what made that supervisor, and by any means, I'm not supporting what she did. Like that's trifling. I hope she gets better supervision. And I'm glad that you were in better hands, Eric. Right?
Oh,
okay.
I thought
she's in better hands. No, and you're comfortable enough sharing. So I'm not canceling that at all. What I am interested and curious about is how she was supervised. And what I explained in the definition is that we inherit the style of the person who supervised us because we measure appropriate behavior with the success of the person exhibiting the behavior, right? Yeah. And I wonder if she was trying to get you to her level by the way that someone got her to her level. And that is that generational trauma or like baptism by fire type of experience. And it doesn't mean that it's correct. It means that she really probably didn't get a good supervision and that person didn't get a good supervision. And so I'm excited to see the chain that you broke because you won't do that to the people who are dependent on your license, and it stops now with you.
It's unfortunate because that is actually, so mental health is a medical field. If you look in the medical field, that's actually how they create surgeons and other disciplines. And so the pressure of the world is already on the Black woman to actually live a certain way and be a certain way. It just bleeds into it. When Bree told me what happened, only thing that popped in my head is that, she was going for success and somebody was attempting, it was the old adage, this is what we do in the Black community. This is how we make you. That's what I heard when Bree was talking to me. And, that's what I heard actually. So yeah, I don't know. I think at some point there's a part of our development and hopefully you pass it down differently. So generational curse in family is generational curse in profession. Is that what you were, more? Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that you brought that up.
It's so true.
It made me think about the lack of color in our field, basically, and that based on her age.
Yeah.
There had to be even less.
Yeah.
Right now, we feel like there's more Black counselors.
It's way more.
Yeah.
But it's still so low compared to the
ratio is still low.
Yes.
Yeah.
So back in her day, there had to be even less. And like you said, it's a symptom of
back in
the
the
culture
day.
at the time. And
symptom of the culture.
yeah. So yeah, that was a good point.
We didn't left Quinn out of it. But
Thank
you got any?
I'm taking all this in because I'm so sorry that was your experience, that it almost made you quit.
Yeah.
That is so sad to think about.
But has anyone else? I know I've thought about quitting, but it's when I was working in an agency to where I burned out and was like, all right, dude, you left this world to come to this world, and the amount of money that you actually pay to be here is not, comparable to what someone has chosen to pay. So I know that I chose to, I almost quit.
Yeah. I think the agency vibe has always made me want to quit, but it's temporary. It's just burnout. It's not a vacation. Couldn't handle. I have had inadequate supervision, but I think I've always had somewhere in the line a supervisor that told me to make my demands. And I adopted that of like feeling empowered. Like this is not a top-down approach, to anything. Your supervisor should actually learn from you because you're more boots on the ground than them. And so I've always felt empowered to push back a little bit, but I also had supervision to teach me that before. You get what I'm saying? So I don't know. I'm so glad that it didn't work. I'm still stuck where Quentin is like, I'm so glad it didn't work. I have nothing else to say, but I'm just glad that you're here licensed and ain't no monkey stop at no show.
Yeah. Let's pay some bills. You ready?
No,
we got to jump out on a break right quick. This is Unapologetically Strong on WOVU 95.9 FM.
You don't.
Right.
But it's not okay for you to still be at this day and age as a grown woman still talking about just surviving. At what point do you get to I'm thriving? And the biggest thing is you could take what you've been through and help somebody else overcome. It no longer was about me, Myron. One of the biggest things we have to understand is there's a difference in powerful women and strong women.
Okay.
Strong women are just surviving. I could have easily been just a strong woman. I was raised by a strong mom. It was just about survival. There was no conversation about thriving. And when you come over to this powerful place, we're taking what happened to us. And it's not a woe is me, because everybody doesn't have a trauma story. I have to understand that. And it's okay if you do or you don't.
Right.
But it's not okay for you to still be at this day and age as a grown woman still talking about just surviving. At what point do you get to I'm thriving? And the biggest thing is you could take what you've been through and help somebody else overcome. It no longer was about me, Myron.
Welcome back. This is WOVU 95.9 FM. That was a little clip that was on IG. I'll figure out a way to give this person credit. But in this Women's History Month, I think what she said was pretty strong because I grew up in a single parent family household, and my mom was always the concept of strong, and she never talked about thriving. Like, not once did we ever, I didn't get the concept of thriving until actually I became like a married father. not even when I became a father, but a married father. And I think far too often we play this game of let's go out and be strong without realizing that we have to transition to this thriving part. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, like on the other side, what we were talking about, I paid a lot of money to be a counselor and I almost quit. And I almost quit because I didn't see myself thriving in that. And that was a problem for me. And so anytime that I hear someone, definitely stand on this concept of I'm so strong, I'm so strong, I'm so strong, where's your power? Because your power is silent. Your strength is loud for some reason. And we have to remember that it's perfectly okay to transition from surviving, right? And in this world, to thriving in this world. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass that up. Who up next? Quinn, you up next? You want to talk?
Sure.
Go ahead.
I think that you make a really good point with that, and I think that oftentimes there may not be role models for how to thrive and what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of role models for how to be strong, and once you get to that point and you've reached that point, it's that kind of then what situation that you have to find for yourself and what it looks like for yourself to thrive. And that can be difficult when you don't have a blueprint.
Yeah. And that's where that supervision stuff came in. That whole concept of this person was strong. She was definitely strong in the field. And I'm pretty sure that she probably considered you as, or the thing that she did as thriving, right? So the difference between, surviving and thriving has more to do about your access, right? It has more to do about what level you're on. Are we just talking about meeting the bills, or are we talking about that next level, that going on vacation, understanding that money is a tool, or even your occupation is a tool, and you're using it to better your life rather than to survive the life that you've given.
Mm-hmm.
Are you thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I love that video. I also love what you said about like power being silent and strength being loud. I think it's hard to admit that I think in some areas of my life I'm surviving, in other areas I'm thriving.
Yeah.
I think that is normal.
It is categorical, right? It's categories, right? No, for real.
Yeah. So I think that my thinking brain is on, and I'm like, well, which parts am I thriving on? Which parts am I surviving?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it just makes me want to sit with that more.
And you can tell someone who is attempting to exert, come up strong because they're making themselves big. They're making themselves loud. They make that's what, this is not a black male, and I'm not going to bring this in, but a lot of times we're taught to appear strong. We're not actually taught to appear powerful, which is different. A person that is powerful, you can be somewhere and you can tell the difference between the decision makers and the people that carry out what the decision maker says. Those are always the ones that are talking. Those are always the ones that are attempting to, I am the boss, or you need to listen to me. The decision makers are usually the ones that's quiet in the back, just nodding. What you got?
I think that the Black woman's experience can only be conceptualized by a Black woman. And that's not a dig to you.
What?
Yes.
What?
No, I'm going to say that.
No,
I'm going to say that because I think that the power is silence and the strength is loud is simplifying a very complicated experience. Because we as women have the pressure to show our power in so many other areas other than work. And so when it comes to the power you have to show in motherhood, the power you have to show in your faith to be a praying woman over your said husband or your leader, the power you have to show and demonstrate and move from in a relationship, right? With when men have complexities of their journey, the power to stay in that, the power to forgive, the power to fight against everyone defining your strength or lack thereof, the power to have floor length locks, like Miss Dula over here, right? And stand out and stand on that, right? The power to stand in your culture. You then just get tired. It's not that I don't think we're struggling to thrive and not survive, I think we just get tired. That we prioritize where the power shows. So depending on that woman in that case, what's important to you at that time to demonstrate power versus to have strength? Well, I'm going to prioritize strength at work because I need to pay my bills and support my family. But my power is going to show up at home. My power is going to show up in my identity. So I think we have not had the privilege to just exist in that space everywhere at the same time. So we often move from different spaces, right?
What about the modeling? Because what the video was more, she was talking about the modeling and what she saw. She also didn't see her mom actually talk about surviving. I'm sorry, thriving. She saw her mom talk about surviving. I can't even get it right because my mindset is off. But
why's your mindset off?
Because it's painful, actually.
Yes.
It's painful that in this day and age, eons away from certain things that I know in my life that I'm constantly, asking my daughter to thrive, not to be the strongest person, but I'm asking her to thrive. I'm presenting and, her mom is telling her those things as well as my son. But I think it goes back to modeling. We have to see that in order to be that a lot of times.
Yeah. But I think also the modeling is in the change of systems, right? Because I think you're a birthing community, right? And so the issues that women experience even in our health, like we can't even go to the doctor and not be in survival mode because we can't even just be sick. We have to be sick and be an advocate of our own sickness. So I think sometimes it's more pressure on the Black woman to then be expected to thrive when we are still living in systems that are designed to keep us in survival mode, or we will actually die. We will die of childbirth. We will die of a misdiagnosis. We will be over medicated. We could be raped. We could be murdered. We could be targeted in so many ways where our life is on the line, just like the Black man. And so I think the modeling comes from a change and an exposure of the system.
Yeah.
And thriving and being empowered in that. Otherwise, you got all of these pseudo empowered Black women who are not as aware of the systemic changes that need to be made because we found our corner of thriving. The only way a Black woman can truly thrive is systemic change. You gotta, just like a Black man.
It's a category, and just like Bree was talking about. And so, Quinn, when when you working, because you work in a different environment than both Bree and Steph, you have a different view of this concept of strength in the clients that you work with. I mean, you've had doctors, right? You've had lawyers. You've had all the individuals that have supposed to be viewed as made it, right?
Same.
So with you and working with the clients, are you able to recognize when that person who has reached a certain level, right, that lawyer, doctor, whatever, to where you can just see you're just literally just surviving. You got this veneer of power. You got this veneer that you're doing something, amazing, but you're just surviving. How do you approach that?
That's a really good question. And I think that a lot of times it depends on what the client is reporting, right? They've reached this place in their life where they have achieved, they're an attorney and they're a successful attorney, but they are still dissatisfied with where they are at, and really digging into where that comes from. Where is that dissatisfaction coming from? Where is the anxiety coming from? Where is that pressure to do more coming from? And really examining what that looks like, and being able to peel back and just process where they may not be really acknowledging or recognizing where their power lies, although they can recognize that they are strong. Because I think that a lot of it does have to do with systems and not feeling like you have all of these credentials, right? But you still somehow don't are not able to facilitate the changes that you want to see, even though that you may know that, these things are off, or feeling as if you are trying to advocate for this thing, at work or in the spaces that you're in, and not feeling heard
or seen.
Right.
Or see, and that is something that I hear
That seeing
lot,
part.
is not feeling heard, not feeling seen, and not knowing where to go from there.
All right. So we're going to pay some bills right quick. On the other side, we got to.
I struggle with the
I know. You got to pay the
We
bills.
get right into it.
Right.
I'm like, do you hear her? I wish she has more to say.
I hear.
Okay, no, I get it.
I wanted to jump into it on the other side because we are all therapists in this room, and we got to do something to add and help for these individuals.
Yeah.
So let's do it. Let's do that on that end. So this is WOVU 95.9 FM. Welcome back. I had to play the calm down song. Welcome back. Right, it got hot in here again.
I cooled it down.
Again.
Power of a thriving Black woman.
Welcome back to Unapologetically Strong. We got Steph, we got Bree, we got Quinn. I had to play the window seat just to ensure everybody was smooth on the way back in. All right. So what I want to do is, Quinn, give some information if people, if they would like to talk to you. Where can they reach you? You can just say pass.
Well, I'm not going to pass.
Okay.
You all can reach me at my email. I do try to, keep up on emails and ask, you can ask me questions and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So stay with me. It's going to be QWENTELLA@MEWCOHIO.com.
What about you, Bree?
I would say email as well.
Okay.
B as in Brianna, F as in fair, and then AIR, befair@birthandbeautiful.org. And also my Instagram, at Brianna Speaks Faith.
Oh, shoot. I know that one. I'm going to know next time.
I'm about to follow her.
Steph, go ahead. What?
I'm about to follow
Oh,
Bree.
okay.
I'm about to be a doula.
Go ahead.
Period. We're about to have a whole practice like this. No, I'm kidding. I'm not kidding, but
Right, she's not.
So Stephanie Lewis, Psychology Today, LinkedIn as Stephanie Lewis, on Instagram, The Perspective Liaison, LIAISON, liaison for my Francais. No kidding. And yeah, you can email me, but I would say just go through Psychology Today. So I am accepting clients. But also I want to highlight where I don't get a lot of inquiries. I also provide supervision. So if you are a dependently licensed counselor, I also provide supervision.
Yay. All right. So we need to, as we do, because we do treatment plans in what we do. So we want to, everything that we just spoke about, Bree on the other side, or while we were on break, was talking about family and something that came up in conversation with her mom. Quinn was talking about what came up in her family. Steph and I are constantly talking, especially Wednesdays, about what comes up in our family. Mm-hmm. But we want to ensure that they are actually, that we're actually providing the people that choose to listen, the two people, well, it got to be more now because y'all here, but two people that usually listen to me, you got to provide, but then you got to provide some good stuff. So what is your one go-to that you want to make sure? I'm going to start with Bree. What is your one go-to that you want, the people that are listening, to be a part of their treatment plan?
Joy.
Okay.
Yeah, I was talking about generational curses, and a lot of my family died without really getting to enjoy life. They worked their butts off and they provided, but they just didn't do things that they enjoy. So, take the time to do something you enjoy, even if it's a small amount of time.
Yeah. What about you, Quinn? So we're building a treatment plan. So we got enjoyment, or another way of saying that is do the things that provide you enjoyment. Okay. What about you, Quinn?
I would add commitment and consistency of doing those things. It's going to take more than just doing it once or twice.
Yeah.
You got to keep doing it.
That consistency part. So the concept of commitment is real weird because people believe that if I commit to this over here, I'm going to fall short over here, which is not reality.
Yeah.
You know, you are a diverse individual, so you have to diversify your time. We say it about money. Right?
Yeah.
We say it about everything else. We say it about friends. You should have different friend groups. So when we commit to actually diversifying our time, you know, we can do that thing, right? We can do other things, right? I mean, that's the fun part of life, right? That's the fun. What about you? So we got two items, line items. What's your line item?
Yeah. Faith. So know that you are the daughter of the King of Kings. So really ground yourself in your faith, pray. So that's one. I got a couple goals. Is that okay? Or can I have a goal and objective? I got another goal. Cause you're always big on resources.
You right.
So I brought a book. Like I have a book. You like resources.
Do your thing.
So prayer, really seek out resources that are produced by people that look like you. So I really want to shout out Dr. Angela Neal Barnett.
Yeah.
She changed my life when I was in my internship in 2006 at Kent State. She has a book, Soothe Your Nerves, The Black Woman's Guide to Understanding and Overcoming Anxiety, Panic, and Fear. I reference that book a lot. And so read resources from Black women and be honest. Don't fake it till you make it. Be honest with where you are.
All right, so flip it. So now create a treatment plan for men.
For men?
Yeah, for men.
Oh.
What?
I'm not doing that. I'm just saying this is what I'm getting back to the thriving and the power. Right?
Yeah. So,
Women's History
but
Month,
what I'm saying
I'm
is
not minimizing it.
No.
Important,
what I'm saying is what I want you to do is because I want you to flip it, right? So be in connection. Right, create the treatment plan for, Women's History Month for women. Now, what I want you to do is just think of things as a partnership. Think about it as couples therapy.
Okay, I wasn't trying to be
whatever.
Just a little bit. Of
yeah, just a little bit. And so, what I want you to do is create something for someone who is a male who wants, not needs. Remember, there's a difference. Who wants to support his partner who happens to be a woman.
Oh, I love this. You should have opened up with that part.
What? Well, you just jumped to the end anyway. Go ahead, Quinn.
No kidding.
What you got?
Look at Bree.
Well, I'd say communication. Make it a point to communicate.
Okay.
About asking what you can do to support your partner in wellness.
Words matter. All right, Bree, what you got?
It's good.
You went what? What?
Active listening. And
active listening.
We'll just
keep
it there.
So we got communication, active listening. What else?
Prayer.
What? You just gonna come in with
Yeah, I think that the man needs to seek the guidance from God to know how to be a covering over his household. And so through that, we talk about submission, right? So I just want to keep it aligned with what men want, right? So men want and they need women to submit to them. And so I would say that in order to keep aligned with what a man needs in order to thrive in the relationship and needs a thriving wife, then submit to God and seek guidance through prayer on how to support her.
Yeah. I'm going to add one for both of them. That's going to go with both of them. So collaboration.
Oh, yeah.
So, a lot of...
So good.
I'm sorry, guys.
A lot of y'all know that anytime that we're talking about mental health and we're talking about what's the formula, I keep it real simple, right? Collaboration plus communication equals trust, right? So in every relationship, we need trust. And so to add on for both sides, right? So if I was speaking in couples therapy, right? If we're doing couples therapy and I'm speaking to the woman, I'm saying, okay, understand that there is a there's a concept of collaboration that you need to do, right?
Yeah.
You need to lose 50 and he needs to lose 50. And that means you have 100% together, right? He gains 50, you gain 50. And then when I'm speaking with the male is understand that you're not supposed to do absolutely anything alone. You're not supposed to, there's nothing that you can ever do alone. And when you choose to be in a union with your partner, you have to give up a certain portion of this thing of your survival techniques. And that survival techniques for men has always been, what? I got this. I don't need no help. But did you have something else? Because we got less than a minute and what?
No, I just love that what you said. And I think what you're getting at is that they need to get their own help too. So sometimes healing your woman is healing yourself.
Yep.
So go see Eric, y'all. I'm sure you could squeeze in a client.
Go see Quinn and Bree. And
Okay,
you.
yeah. No, I was saying
I'm just kidding.
to see a man.
I'm
In
just
case
kidding.
a man wanted to see a black man, I'd be putting you out there as a black male therapist.
I
Eric
got you.
King on LinkedIn and Psychology Today.
So we got a couple. So thank you guys for being a part of Wellness Wednesday, and it just was a treat to have like just the first. Wellness Wednesday was all women, right? And Steph asked me, she said, well, Eric, did you plan this? And I said, no. And she said, well, how did you know, right? How did you know? I said, well, I felt it. And I did. I felt Quinn was supposed to come on way back, but she picked this day actually. And then we added Steph automatically. And so it just flowed. And so if you allow yourself to be open to the universe, right, open to God, and while understanding that each one of us is in the DNA of God, He will lead you in all the things that you need to do. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you guys. Any parting words? Any?
Thank you for having me.
No problem.
Great.
All right.
This was fun. Thanks.
Well, catch me next week. Catch me next week on Unapologetically Strong on WOVU 95.9 FM.